Welcome back, everybody. Tim here. I'll talk if you'll listen. Episode 45, episode 46, excuse me. I'm losing count. And the count almost at episode 50. And I'm pretty excited for what we have on this slate. There's so much that I want to talk about, that some of which I can't tell you all about for a couple of reasons. One, I want it to be a surprise, a genuine surprise. And two, we all know that when we have something in the pipeline, we get really excited about it. So then you talk about it, and we talk about it to other people and they hear you, it kind of becomes real. And then when it doesn't come through, or if it falls through, you kind of feel bummed out. You know, you feel like, oh man, this thing didn't happen. And everybody comes up to you, hey, what happened to this? What happened to this? Or, hey, tell me about this. You kind of have to relive that disappointment over and over and over again. So I think the best thing, especially while you get the details together, is sometimes just to keep things under wraps. You know, you don't always want to talk about everything. How they say real G's move in silence like lasagna. So let's do what we got to do and keep certain things under wraps. What I will share, however, is some great news. So I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable with my craft, and I'm starting to look into some things and bring them to the show, add them to my arsenal, put them on the resume, so to speak. And one of those are guest appearances. So I've really started to branch out and touch all of you, the listeners, almost with maybe a few exceptions here and there. Almost everyone who has been featured on the show up until this point has been a listener of the show. And I take a lot of pride in that, and it makes me really, really happy. I get a lot of joy from that, because I feel like it's just as much your show, y'all show, as it is mine. And the show is called I'll Talk If You'll Listen for a reason, right? If there's no one listening, then there's no point in talking. That said, there is a ton of stuff on the horizon in regards to interviewing. There is much more people upcoming. There is more engaging interviews upcoming. Or there are more engaging interviews upcoming, I should say. But more importantly, more in particular, I have some surprises in store for you all. And I'm really excited. You'll be surprised when the next few guests, the next couple of guests that come on to the show, I will be, you'll be pleasantly surprised at what some of these guests' backgrounds are, and hopefully it can help diversify the show a little bit more. I'm very pleased, very satisfied to say that we will be anticipating more female guests. More young women, young ladies who will find themselves on the show. I can't be more excited about that, because I've been saying it for the longest time. And if you've been listening to the show, you know I have been saying this for the longest time, that I'm all about diversity. And I'd be very pleased to have more women on the show, featured on the show, because I don't have a purely 100% male audience. The audience may be predominantly male, but however, that doesn't mean that women don't listen and engage and have thoughts and opinions. And to have women represented on the show is huge. That's why having both the Jaleesas on the show, on our episode talking about black women, was so huge, because not only were black women represented, women in general were represented on that episode in full force. And it felt like such a huge accomplishment, because in the past, although I have had women on in the past, it's been really, really difficult to track them down. You know, I even had a friend who said he knew a young lady who listened to my show. I didn't know her, but he was a friend. They were friends, and she would have thoughts and opinions about the show and would go to him and use him as her sounding board and say, hey, here's what I think, or why doesn't he do this? Or I didn't agree with him when he said that. And my friend would call me up and tell me these things. And I would say, hey, why don't you tell her to come on the show? I would love to have her on the show, especially to have somebody who disagrees with you on the show is huge. I would love to have that on the someone who disagrees with me on the show, and she just didn't want to. She was a little too timid, a little too intimidated or anxious, or dare I say afraid to come onto the show. And who knows, everyone's reason is a little bit different. I know for the longest time, a good friend of mine, Jaleesa, has listened to the show for well over a year and decided to get on the show. And it was a great interview, and it was she was very comfortable. It was a nice organic conversation. But even up before that point, up until that point, she was very hesitant, let's say, to come onto the show. And I want to let all of the young ladies out there know that, hey, you do have some representatives upcoming, and hey, it's okay. Even if you disagree with me, I would love to have you on. I would love to have you on. Another update for the show is a really, really cool interview that I did earlier today. As a matter of fact, earlier today, I had a interview. It was audio only, and it was regarding COVID-19. Now, some of you may recall a couple of episodes ago, I spoke about COVID-19 and it still being around, and it still being a very real thing, and it still being a very present thing. I spoke about that, and one of my friends reached out to me and informed me, hey, I had COVID-19. I had the latest strain of the coronavirus. And first and foremost, I'm like, no way. I had no clue. I was glad he was okay. But more importantly, he wanted to share his story. And I took it as an opportunity to shed some light on the situation. I think right now, especially, our only source of insight is the media. Our only source of insight is whatever we have at our disposal in regards to social media or hearsay. And very few of us some of us may not actually know someone who has personally had this virus and survived and dealt with it. So I thought it was cool to have my buddy Brian on the show. He's a longtime supporter of the show, huge fan of the show. So we were able to check off a couple of boxes, more than one box. We were able to get a longtime friend and supporter of the show on the show. We were able to get someone who had COVID-19 and survived on the show. We were able to get somebody who is also another young black man who's a creator who does podcasting on the show. We were able to do a lot of that. So for those of you watching live right now, if you're watching live on Periscope, you're going to want to check out the YouTube channel. It's named right after the show. I'll talk if you'll listen. If you're watching on Facebook, I actually posted it on my page. So after this is over, if you want to go and check it out, go to my page, look at the interview. It's about a 30-minute interview, and it's a great interview. It's great feedback. It's great insight. And I don't want to take away from the interview. I want you to go and check it out yourself. But I will say that it was a first for me because it was scheduled in the sense that we made time for it, but it was unscheduled in the sense that I couldn't fit it into the show. I have a few things that I want to talk about for this episode. And for those of you who are watching live, you may not know what those topics are yet, but for everyone who is listening to this through their favorite podcast platform, you see the topics in the episode of the show, the title of the show. So there are a few things I want to talk about, and I have the next 2 episodes booked on topics, and it was tough to fit Brian's interview and his experience with COVID-19 into the show. I wanted it to make sense. I didn't want it to feel out of place. I didn't want to take away from the integrity of the interview, and I didn't want to have the show about 15 different topics, So it was the interview only, and I posted it on the YouTube channel. So if you're listening now and you're not a friend of mine on Facebook, or even if you are a friend of mine on Facebook, go to YouTube, pull it up, just listen to it. It's no video. It's some video in the beginning and some video at the end as I talk. But in the middle, it's just pure interview. It's pure audio. So you can just click play, let it play in the background, soak it all in. And hey, it may help to answer or address some of your concerns surrounding COVID-19. And I think it is definitely something for everyone to listen to. And I'm not just saying that because it's on my channel. I'm not just saying that because I was the host. I think genuinely it's something for everyone to listen to. And it was priceless. It was invaluable. So Brian, thank you so much. And again, for those of you who are listening, I'll put in a sample of the interview for you to listen to it. And hopefully you'll take from that and go and check out the full length interview. So here's a small section of that interview now, and you can check out the full interview on my YouTube channel.
Life doesn't discriminate. America might, but life doesn't. So,
how about that?
Yeah. So with that, it humbled me to knowing that no matter what's going on out in this world, it can happen to me just as it can happen to anybody else. So when COVID happened, it was a thing where, okay, after I had beat COVID, because the biggest thing that helped me beat COVID was my kids. Because my kids had to evacuate the house when I had it. And I didn't see them for a month.
Wow, man. I'm sure that was probably the hardest part.
Yeah, so when you sit there and you wake up every day and then you're scared to go to sleep, you're sitting there thinking like, okay, I got to get well because my daughter, who's not even 1 year, I mean, she's one now, but when I had it, she wasn't 1 year because her birthday is in May. And I was like, she's so close. I'm going to see her when, her turn 1 year old. And then my son, who's about to go into 5th grade, I'm like, I'm going to see this. So I had a determination level.
Hey, everybody. I'm back. And again, if you want to check out the full interview, go over to the YouTube page. If you're a friend of mine on Facebook, go to the Facebook page and watch it there. Huge, huge, huge. Just nothing less than huge. And the last update is I'm looking into merchandise. I'm looking into getting some merchandise for the show. I had a few of you speak with me offline, giving some suggestions about the show. And in that interview, you'll hear Brian discuss his merchandise. And it's definitely something that I feel people who support the show, I talked about this last week, right? There's different ways to support. There's different ways to show your love for the show. There's different ways to be there, whether it be from afar, whether you listen to the show, whether you come onto the show, whether you share the link. I have a cousin who shares the link. Whenever I go live, she just shares it. And that in and of itself is support. And there's some people out there who says, hey, I want to go in and I want to advocate for you. I want to rock your logo. I want to rock your merchandise. Because I know it's going to go to better equipment for the show, better production. Who knows? Maybe I can do something special for the listeners. The money will go right back into the show. But more importantly, you get to spread the I'll Talk If You'll Listen brand. I like to think that this podcast, a part of the reason that it's so cool and that I enjoy it so much, is because I like to educate and I like to provide insight and maybe perspective on specific topics that people may be thinking about or be interested in. And if we can have a bigger audience gaining more perspective, where's the downside in that? So that said, let's roll right into our first topic. Now, trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. You all know this is not a gossipy show. We do not focus on gossip from a drama perspective. We may focus on gossip or current events or pop culture from a insightful or educational perspective. And I have an opinion about something. I want to throw it out there. I want to put it across the airwaves. I may upset a few people. I may not. Who knows? But I think it's something that's worth talking about, especially because everybody's talking about it right now. So, Will Smith, Jada Pinkett-Smith. Now, if you have been living under a rock, you don't have social media, or you just don't care, you may not know that Will Smith and Jada Pinkett-Smith, his wife, had a bit of drama happen starting last week and kind of rolling into this week. And it involved infidelity, it involved their marriage, it involved relationships, it involved accountability, and so on. Now, I'm going to give you a brief summary of what happened, and you should go and research the rest on your own for more context, especially if I get something wrong. But in short, Jada and Will have had quite the roller coaster ride in their marriage. They have been married for quite some time. I want to say it was 25 years, 26 or 7 years, something along those lines. And they've been around for quite some time. Now, throughout their marriage, there's been a lot of drama, as with any marriage, and you can add a extra sprinkle of drama for them being famous and them being in the tabloids and them being celebrities and actors and musicians. But there were rumors a while back about them having an open relationship. And you usually get three types of people whenever you hear about somebody in an open relationship. You get the people who are in open relationships themselves, or they believe in open relationships, and they're kind of like, okay, why is this news? You can make an argument that being in an open relationship is probably more natural than otherwise, right? Then you got that middle group of people where they're like, I really don't care. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with my situation. It has nothing to do with my relationship or my partners, my sex life. I don't care. Whoever can be in, Santa Claus can be in an open relationship. Not my problem. But I think the last group of people, and I am going to pick on you all a little bit, I think people who believe in monogamy are the most narrow-minded people when it comes to this topic, because I feel like personally they instantly shut down. Now, you do have a subset of people within that category who say, hey, I don't agree with it, but hey, if that's your thing, do it. But I think a lot of people, especially if they're religious, who practice monogamy, they tend to shun or criticize the act of open marriages or open relationships as if, hey, that's not natural, that's not what you're supposed to do. And I have my own opinion. I actually did an episode about this previously. I forget which number it was, but the title of the episode is People in Open Relationships Are Happier Than You. So go and look that up. I want to say it was episode 27, 28, somewhere around there, maybe 25, 26. Go check it out. It was a really good episode, and I actually had someone who's in an open relationship on that episode to talk about that. But getting back to the point here, you'll have a lot of people who are monogamous. They tend to be the vocal majority, and they say, hey, this is not the right way, this isn't natural, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of drama surrounding their relationship there. And during that period of time, they had separated. They were still married, and they considered themselves to be life partners, but they weren't romantic at all. They weren't romantically involved. There was none of that going on. And during that separation, Jada had a relationship with this gentleman by the name of August, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name. I believe his last name is Alcina. Someone can fact check that for me, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But this gentleman by the name of August, and August like the month. So I'm sure Will has been getting a lot of questions about, hey, what's next month? And I don't mean to make light of the situation, but I'm sure it's a rough time, especially when you're opening old wounds. You're reopening these wounds after they had a chance to heal or begun to heal. As soon as that scab starts to form, here we come. And yes, it is us. Don't be mistaken. It's me. It's you. Here, and it's August as well. Here we come to peel back that scab, to pick that scab, and now the wound is open again. It's exposed. The stitches have been pulled out forcibly. And Jada Pinkett-Smith got into a relationship, but if you ask her, she'll say an entanglement with August. And while they were entangled, she claims that, and Will kind of confirmed that they were separated at the time. And Will did say that, because August came out and said that he spoke with Will and got permission. And Will kind of said that that's not entirely true, because the only person that can really give permission is Jada herself. I mean, it's her body, and it's a relationship she wants to get into. Now, some people are old fashioned and they do seek out blessings from, if it's an open relationship, the partner, or, if you're dating a young lady, you want to get the blessing from her father. So August could have been approaching it from that angle. So maybe that's what he meant. But Will clarified and said, hey, look, the only person who can give permission, quote unquote, is Jada herself. And Jada talked about it on her Red Table Talk Facebook Watch show. And this is not Red Table Talk, and this isn't a Red Table Talk recap or review show. So I'm not going to mention too much. You should go and check it out. But in short, Jada said a few things that I want to talk about. And this is a topic that's being revisited. I want to talk about open relationships, and I want to talk about accountability for women in particular. So I think Jada did a poor job of taking accountability, and I think she weaponized the topics of self-love and self-discovery and them being separated. I think she used those as scapegoats for accountability. Even when she was talking about it, she said entanglement. Who says that? That's like not normal language. No one says, yeah, I'm about to go hook up with this shorty. You know, me and her in this entanglement. You know, we've been entangling for a while now. No one talks like that. Or, you know, no girl is calling, hey girl, yeah, me and this guy have been entangled for a while. I'm about to go. Or, hey girl, he been stringing me along for too long. I'm trying to get entangled with him and he keep putting it off. No one talks like that. No one talks like that. That is not normal language. So even her saying entanglement, that's, you can tell, I think that language signifies that that's not something that she's proud of. It was something that she was ashamed of. And at the end of the day, she kind of manipulated August. August was just there. She saw someone that she could fix. She probably saw a little bit of herself in August because she herself was broken. And she probably was doing a lot of, what's the word? Not reflecting. I can't think of the word right now. I'm at a loss for words. Projecting. There you go. She was doing a lot of projecting, and she probably saw a lot of herself in August. And August was introduced by Jaden, their son, Jaden Smith, and August was introduced to the family by Jaden, and he was going through some serious health issues, and you know the Smith family kind of rallied around him and got him where he needed to be health wise and mental wise and emotional wise. But you know, Jada and August grew close and they had a relationship. It was romantic in every sense of the word, and the only thing it really wasn't was public. But August in the past has said a lot of different things that some people may deem inappropriate to say about someone who is in a relationship with somebody. But again, anyone who deems that inappropriate, I can guarantee more than likely is those monogamy, you know, advocates, those people who practice monogamy, and it's difficult. And this isn't necessarily an attack, more so as an observation. It's difficult for someone who has believed in this one thing their whole life, all of their lives, and now the foundation of that is being challenged. It's difficult for them to explore outside of that belief, because people don't realize you really don't believe. It takes a while for you to believe in something because you believe in it. More than likely, you believe in it because you believe in the person who taught it to you. So because you believe in the person who introduced it to you, you feel like if you betray that belief, you're betraying that person. I think we see a lot of that in terms of religion and other life philosophies, political parties and where you choose to live and who you choose to date. It's because someone that you respect and admire, or someone that you view as an authority figure, has imposed that belief on you. And before it became your own, you associated that belief with that person. So of course, if you go against that belief, if you quote unquote betray that belief, you're betraying that person. And speaking of betrayal, August quote unquote came out and admitted the relationship that he had with Jada. And according to Jada, this was about 4.5 years ago. And she was a little surprised, and she hasn't talked to August since. So she was a little surprised that August came out and mentioned this and brought it up now. It seemed a little random to her. And that's what I was talking about earlier, and reopening old wounds. Because if this really was 3, 4, 5 years ago, it kind of makes you wonder why August came out and did this. Now, one of August's main points was, hey, I'm not a homewrecker. And although Will didn't respond, Jada mentioned that in her interview and said, hey, no, he's not a homewrecker. But here's a few things that I want to say about Jada, about accountability, and then I'm going to roll into the open relationship discussion. People like Jada who feel like, because she even said, I don't feel like I did anything wrong. I think there's a teaching moment there, because if you hurt, I think a lot of us get confused about someone's reality. And you could tell people that all humans have 2 feet, relatively speaking. And if they somehow get the impression that some humans only have 1 foot or 3 feet, even if that's not true, you got to deal with that reality. Like, that's their reality. So you have to deal with it. So even if Jada feels like, hey, I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't hurt anybody, and we were separated, whatever the case may be, if Will is hurt, if Will is damaged, and if Will went through suffering as a result, a direct result of your actions, there's some accountability there, and you got to deal with that. All of the women out there who are defending Jada's decision, I think the only area where I will defend Jada at is the fact that, hey, when you're separated, as long as certain rules are set, then I agree with Jada. You know, we don't know what that discussion was like between Jada and Will. So we don't know what the parameters of that separation looked like, what that sounds like, or even what their open relationship, if it is a thing, even what that's like. And for all the guys defending Will, what I'll sit here and say is, you got to take a look at if he had any influence on her feeling like she had to do that. She mentioned for a while that she hadn't felt loved in so long. And that's a part of the reason why she chose to do that. So you got to take a look at, well, hey, why did she feel that way? You know, what contributed to that? And Will Smith said this previously, and now we have more context. It could have been a result of his relationship, his marriage with Jada. But Will said previously something that I earnestly believe in, wholeheartedly. And he said, no one is in control of your own happiness except for you. No one can make you happy. You got to find out what makes you happy and, you know, internalize that. Only you are in control of your own happiness. You can't seek out someone, whether that be a partner, whether that be a husband or a wife, whether that be a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whether that be a religious group, whether that be a job, whether it be a podcast. You know, you can't seek something can make you happy, but if you're going to rely on that thing to make you happy, that's not that thing, that person, that idea's job to make you happy. That's not their responsibility. So on one end, I'll say it's not Will's responsibility to make Jada happy. Oh, that's Jada's responsibility. However, I will say you do have to I think it'd be really naive not to take a look at what Will did or didn't do that made Jada feel that way. If someone doesn't feel loved, that's their reality, and that's something that you have to deal with and address. Even if you feel like you did not put them in that position, you have to deal with that reality. All of us are very experienced in speaking with someone who misinterpreted our feelings at one point during our in our lives. We said A, they heard B. And there's some responsibility there for you to take a look at that person's perspective, especially if that person's your life partner, whether that be through marriage or otherwise. You got to take a look at, like, hey, where was my role in this? Where did I fall into this? And I think that's something that they both need to look at if they haven't already. Go check out the interview. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are. Let me know if you think, hey, no, Jada was fine. She took accountability. She owned up to everything that she did. And let me know if you feel the opposite. Hey, Jada took no ownership at all. And Jada's definitely the wrong one here. Or, hey, Will's the wrong one here. Let me know. Let me know what you have to say. Let me know what you think. And I will respond accordingly. Now, open relationships. What do I think about open relationships? what is my experience with people who have been in open relationships, or how do people respond to open relationships? I'm going to talk about that right on the other side of the break. Stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Now, open relationships. Let's dive right into it. I think in general here, I'm not speaking to anyone's specific situation, including my own, but in general, I think open relationships are just much more natural as like a human species. I think monogamy got introduced when it came to certain political or social pressures. Monogamy kind of got introduced, and there was actually an article in a mini docu-series that I watched a while back that started talking about romanticism and how certain things were marketed towards certain groups of people outside of religion, because we know religion is one of the biggest forces of monogamy or advocates of monogamy. But there were certain things outside of religion that were marketed towards people in specific positions to say, hey, open relationships are bad. You shouldn't, you're doing a disservice to you and the community, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand the point and purpose and even the emotional reason for monogamy. And I totally get it. How I feel is people who are monogamous feel like the emotions and feelings are reserved for just one person, and as if it's this thing. So my biggest gripe, and based on all my experiences with all of the people that I've spoken with in a monogamous relationship, my biggest gripe about monogamy is the irrational argument that our emotions can be controlled. Our emotions and our physiological and physical reactions can be controlled at the drop of a dime. And mind over matter, right? I do agree to an extent. I think mentally, a lot of people, they do cop outs. They blame it on alcohol. They blame it on not being happy. And in reality, they just can't control themselves, right? However, I think it'd be really silly to overlook the fact that at the end of the day, we're human. At the end of the day, we're comprised of a general genetic and biological code that is beyond our cable toe. It's beyond our comprehension, and it's beyond our control. We can't control what genes get passed through to our kid naturally. We can't control how many times our blood cells travel back and forth. We can't control us finding someone attractive. It's what you do after the thought that's important. But even then, it's not natural to just say, I'm only going to be attracted to one person ever, period. I'm not going to find anyone else attractive. I'm not going to have, romantic or sexual thoughts about anybody else other than the person I'm with. I can't understand why or how people think that's natural. That's not natural. Even my girlfriend and I will be watching a movie or a video or something like that, and we'll say, oh, that guy or that girl's attractive, or we'll make a comment on someone's appearance, general appearance, and neither one of us look at that as disrespect towards the other one. Because at the end of the day, we both believe, and I guess this is a part of it, right? Find somebody that shares the same philosophy as you. But at the end of the day, we both believe that, like, hey, we're both human. We can't just turn it off. Everybody has a type, and no offense, but let's be honest, although the person that we're with may hit a good chunk of those preferences, no one is ever anyone else's dream guy or dream girl. That is rarely the case. I think that when people tell you, oh, I fell in love with my soulmate, or I don't want anybody else, I think that's very inaccurate, to be polite. And I think that's very unreasonable, an unreasonable statement. If you have a preference, you have, hey, I want my girl to have long hair or short hair. Hey, I want my guy to be black. I want my guy to be Hispanic. I want my guy to be Asian. Hey, I want my partner to be have natural hair. Hey, I want my partner to be fit. I want my partner to be healthy. I want my partner to be career oriented and goal oriented and have a successful, well established home or career. We have all these preferences. Do we get them? 9 times out of 10, no. Does that mean we don't like or love the person that we're in a relationship with? No, not necessarily. It doesn't mean that. However, I think it's a difficult conversation to have. No one wants to go to the person that they're with, especially if they're the person that they've been with for years. No one wants to go to that person and say, hey, you weren't my first choice. Now, I think if you're having a healthy conversation, I think if you're having an open, vulnerable conversation, then I think that's a topic of discussion. You can say, hey, oh, this girl, I was chasing her, blah, 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 blah. Or you can tell, sometimes you have those, especially if you're friends with the person that you're in a relationship with. Let me say that again. If you are friends with the person that you're in a relationship with, you're going to keep that friendship going. You're going to talk to each other like you're friends. That's the basis, the foundation of your relationship. You were friends before you were partners, right? So you're going to have that discussion like, oh, here's my type. And you probably had that discussion before you even started dating. Hey, here's my type. Here's what I like. Here's what I don't like, etc. So to be able to just turn that off because you're in a relationship all of a sudden is extremely unreasonable and extremely irrational. And I think anyone who tries to stand on that argument can only really prove their point from an emotional standpoint. They won't really able to make their point from like, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be. Because if that was the case, everybody would do it. Nobody would cheat. Right? Now, I know cheating happens for a multitude of reasons. Cheating can happen just due to lust, right? You need a certain thing and you don't care who you get it from. Cheating can happen because of greed, right? You just want. You want it all. You're selfish. You don't care about whose feelings you hurt. You just want to satisfy yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. Sometimes unfaithfulness or cheating happens unintentionally. And you may say, hey, Tim, how can someone be unfaithful? How can someone cheat unintentionally? Are you kidding me? Well, if there's no clear discussion on what counts as quote unquote cheating, then someone can very well unintentionally cheat. I had a discussion with a good buddy of mine that you'll be hearing shortly. I'll plug it in after this topic. But I had a discussion with a buddy of mine involving flirting. And is flirting cheating? Should someone be allowed to flirt? What does that look like? What does that sound like? If you never had that discussion with the person you're with, and the person you're with, guy or girl, says cheating is flirting, flirting is cheating, but the other person doesn't know that, and the other person goes out and flirts, then you could quote unquote cheat by your partner's standard unintentionally. Now, I personally don't think flirting is cheating. However, some people feel that way, and that's their right. I think it's a something that's rooted in insecurity and trust and trauma. However, it's their right to feel that way. But to sit here and say that someone will never want to have sex with someone else, to say that someone would never want to kiss someone else, to say that someone would never want to dance with someone else, to say that someone would never want to go on a vacation or have a conversation or have lunch or just simply hold hands with someone else, I think is extremely, extremely irrational. And I would love to talk to somebody who feels otherwise, who feels differently, and have that discussion. I genuinely feel, unless it's a religious standpoint with someone based on their religion, they say, hey, open relationships are against my religion and here's why, and they break it down from a theological standpoint, then that's different, because at that point they're taking the decision out of their control and they're saying, hey, regardless of how I feel, this isn't the Christian way, or this isn't the X way, whatever other religion promotes. Like, let's say Jewish, or I'm not too well versed in religion. Whatever other religions promote monogamy, they're saying they're releasing themselves from that decision, and they're going, I don't have to make this decision because my religion made it for me. That's a different discussion. But if you're not overly religious, or if you don't believe in any religion that practices monogamy, and you just personally feel like, hey, it's monogamy is the way, then I think you fall into the category that if X, then Y. And I'll give you an example. If X, then Y. Some people feel like, hey, if you flirt with this other person, then you don't want to be with me. Some people feel like, hey, if you want to spend time with this other person, then you don't want to spend time with me. Some people feel like, hey, because you wanted to go to that theme park, or you wanted to go have lunch, or you wanted to go to that fair or that festival with that other person, and you didn't want to go with me, you didn't want to specifically go with me. You don't love me. You don't like me. You don't want to spend time with me. And I think that's something that is on a psychological, let's just say mental, because I can't say that word right now. A psychological, there you go. Psychological level that needs to be uncovered and peeled back as to why this person feels that way. You need to have that discussion, because I think they'll fall back on, I think a lot of people, and I know the people in monogamous relationships, you feel like I'm picking on you right now, and that's not my intent. My intent is to give you the perspective of someone who doesn't necessarily agree with you. And I think a lot of people, whether it be hot dogs go on buns and they should only be grilled and they should only be cooked, or whether it's, hey, burgers should only be eaten well done. Well, I think they try to fall back on majority rules logic. And I think they try to go back as, hey, most people feel this way. So because most people feel this way, because I can go out and about and ask 10 people and 8 or 9 of them will feel, hey, no, you're right, they'll agree with me, then I'm justified in feeling the way that I feel. I think people try to justify their opinion by saying, because my opinion is right because other people feel the same way, instead of saying my opinion is my opinion and I feel this way, and exploring why they feel that way. What led you to that decision? What led you to the thought process of, hey, this is the only way? And that's what I mean by narrow-minded. Narrow-minded, in my opinion, is I don't want to even entertain other thoughts outside of mine, because I think it's the sign of an educated mind or a mature mind that says, hey, I can hear your thoughts, I can hear your opinions, I can hear your perspective and not agree with it. I can understand it and not agree with it. But I think some people think understanding and agreement are hand in hand. They have to go together. They're two sides of the same coin. And if you understand where someone's coming from, then you automatically agree with them. But I think there's another group of people, like I discussed earlier, where someone that's very important to them, whether that be a pastor, whether that be a parent, whether that be a mentor, someone that's very important to them comes to them and says, hey, this is the way. Monogamy is the way. It's the only way. Any other way is the way of a heathen. You feel that if you betray that belief, if you aren't monogamous, if you step outside of that, you're betraying the person who taught that to you. I remember having a discussion with somebody who is a close friend of mine. I knew him for quite some time. And we were talking about religion. And because I'm a very philosophical person, I like to think outside the box. I asked him, I said, hey man, what could you entertain for a second that the religion you believe in is false? It's not the right religion, or it doesn't exist. It's made up. Have you ever entertained that thought? And he goes, I entertain it every now and again, but I don't go too deep down that path, because if I find out that my religion isn't real, I don't know how I would look at my mother. I said, what do you mean? He said, my mother has been practicing this religion. My mother has funded this religion. My mother has been very involved with this religion, and she was the one that taught it to me. And I have very fond and strong memories attached to my mother pertaining to this religion. And if I find out that this religion isn't real, I'm going to question what my mother has been involved with, or to quote Jada Pinkett-Smith, entangled with all of these years, all of these decades. And that was the first exposure that I got of, wow, this person's religion is the foundation of who they are as a person. And as with any structure, if you rock the foundation, the whole building topples over. And I think a lot can be said about monogamy. So there's much more I can say about the topic, and I would love to hear everyone's feedback and every discussion points and talking points, and let me know. Who knows? Maybe I'll do some more unscheduled interviews surrounding monogamy. Speaking of which, I had a good friend of mine, Dorian, who reached out to me after an episode and said, hey, he wanted to be on the show. And I'm sitting here thinking like, hey, what could we talk about? What did we find most interesting that we could bring to the show? And Dorian posted a status last week, and it involved flirting. Hey, is flirting cheating? If it is, why? If it isn't, why? And that got brought up. So I dove into the discussion, and there was a young lady who commented on that status that said, absolutely, flirting is cheating. 100% it is. And I disagreed, and Dorian kind of walked the line on it, and he said, you know, he goes back and forth about it, and he thinks that it is, but he thinks that it's not, and he was a little wobbly on it. But we spoke about it, and I had an opportunity to catch up with Dorian to speak in depth at length about flirting and what his opinion about flirting is. So sit back, enjoy the discussion with Dorian, and I will see you on the other side. Here's Dorian.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode and another interview lined up. This one in particular is special because it's with a longtime friend of mine, over a decade now, which is crazy to say, and some engaging conversations we've had in the past. So I'd like to introduce Dorian, a good friend of mine. Dorian, how you doing?
I'm all right, good brother. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. Just living the dream. And I'm really excited about having you on because you know how we used to do back in the day.
Yeah,
and,
man. Yeah.
You know, I'm just really excited about it. So just to set the premise here, and most people know the interviews are recorded before the show, so I'm sure they know what the topic is by now. But I'll say this, that last night you posted the status, and it was really interesting on Facebook. I'm talking. And we kind of had a bit of a philosophical, some comments on that. And it was about this topic, you know, cheating, faithfulness, what's shady in a relationship, what's not. And I think a lot of people in our age group specifically, and who grew up in dense urban environments specifically, have sometimes a skewed perspective on what's cheating and what's not cheating. So the first thing I wanted to key in on is the whole flirting conversation. There was a young lady who commented on your status who said flirting was cheating to her. And she didn't really give an answer, and that's okay, but that's why we're going to talk about it now. So first and foremost, in your opinion, is flirting cheating?
I think it can be. Now, initially, it's all kind of things that go into it. You know, the young lady, she commented, cheating is cheating. I mean, flirting is cheating for whatever reasons, which are her own. You know, so. And I'm guessing they're based off her experiences or whatever, or even how she views flirting or what she considers flirting. So me, I'm just like I just talk nice, you know. I seen a meme one day that says everybody thinks I'm flirting, but it's not my fault that the words fall out my mouth like water or something like that. And I laugh at it because that's kind of true, you know, because I find myself even like whether I'm at work or on the street, and it doesn't matter like the age group of women, but when I'm talking to women, I have, like there's a natural flattery that comes, you know, so I can see how some things can be interpreted as flirting. So the problem, I think it will become a problem for somebody like me Now it's fine if you see somebody in passing. If I see somebody in passing and I say something slick or whatever, and you think that's flirting, okay, cool. I ain't never gonna see this person again. No harm, no foul. But let's say you got a situation where you're at work and you're constantly involved in what somebody, or even yourself, you're constantly involved in what you yourself consider flirting, and you have a partner. You know, to me, I think that's where it gets dangerous, because you don't know how that person on the other end is receiving that flirting. You know, maybe they're actually thinking you have some kind of intentions, and then what if they decide to make a move on you, and then now you're in an uncomfortable position because, one, you have to explain, hey, listen, I was just, you know, that's just the way I am. I was just talking. I don't want you to take anything from it. And I also have a situation at home, you know. Or two, now the person you've been flirting with, she makes a move because she thinks you've been flirting with her. And instead of you being able to say, you know, hey, I got a situation at home, now you're in a situation where you're cheating, you know, you're physically cheating, you know, because she's responded to what she perceives to be you flirting with her, and now she wants you, you know, whether that being you guys going out on a date or you guys actually having sex or whatever. So, to me, it depends on what you define as flirting and how often you do it.
So I think one thing in particular that I've experienced, especially throughout my young adult years, is exactly what you just said. A lot of people don't understand, or at least they're not on the same accord on what's flirting and what's not flirting. Why do you think so many people, especially going back to when you and I were in high school, et cetera, why do you think everyone's definition, how can they grow up in the same area and the same time and with the same perspective on what a relationship is, but have different definitions of flirtation? Why do you think that is?
Well, so yes, we are all in the same area, you know, like, but that's kind of like, all right, so Philadelphia is Philadelphia, right? We are all Philadelphians, but you do have South Philly, you know, you got North Philly, you got Uptown, you know, you got all these different parts, Germantown, whatever. Now, there are people you can look at somebody and say, oh, he's from South, or I mean, maybe you can't look at him, but hearing somebody talk or the way they act, oh, you must be from North Philly, you know, oh, you must be from South Philly, or you from Uptown. I think it's that same situation. Like, yes, we all grow up around relationships, but again, each relationship is different, you know. Each person is different, and how you see things is different, you know. So what you see, you might even in the same home, let's say me and my sisters and my brother, you know, we watch my mom date or whatever. Now, we've never talked about it, but I could have one opinion of my mom's boyfriend, one of my mom's boyfriend, and for any other of my siblings, it could be a completely different, they could have a completely different opinion, because it's again, it's situational based. Now, yes, we all have that foundation of where we got or what we see as dating from our mother, but we all think differently. You understand? You know, now there might have been some things that I saw my mom's boyfriend do that I didn't like, that my sisters or my younger brother, that, you know, it didn't bother them. And maybe that comes with age. Maybe it was because of the age that I was at and the age that they were at, and that does play a part of it too. And then, again, it's experience. You know, sometimes you actually have to go through things, you know, before you can actually understand what it is. Does that make sense?
No, I get where you're coming from. Everyone's upbringing is different. I think from my experience personally, and pretty much where we met in high school, is it seemed that everyone had the same perspective on, like, hey, this is what I want my relationship to be. And we're all basically kids. We're all teenagers, and we don't really know what we want, but we kind of use that as a foundation. And believe it or not, next thing you know, the seed is planted, and we're taking those perspectives into our adult life. So I find that really interesting. Now, based on what you just said, especially with your relationship with your mother and when she would date and things like that. And earlier in the conversation, you said, you know, you're just a nice talker. And I agree. I remember at one point in my life, I was like, you know, Dorian is just a smooth brother, man. How can you, and I don't know if you remember, one time we were on South Street, we were walking together, and I was like, how do you do it? Because, you know, just to give a little context for everybody, I was always a shy person. I could never, all of my romantic relationships came from women coming to me or me meeting them through a mutual friend. I could never be that guy to just walk up to a girl and be so smooth. And I remember us talking that time on South Street, like, how do you do it, man? It's just so natural for you. And I remember asking you that question. What do you think was the thing, the catalyst that got you to where you are today, to be so comfortable in talking with women and to be so comfortable with just quote unquote flirting? Where do you think that comes from?
I think, okay, so now it's different. I'm gonna kind of veer off a little bit, just to, I guess, to give some perspective, because it's different when I'm like just regular talking. You know, if I pass you on the street and I say hello, like even a hello for me, somebody could think I was coming on to them, because, and especially if she's attractive and she's used to that sort of thing, you know, because I'm a nice guy. I'm generally, I'm authentically a nice guy. Like, I hold the door open. Not just for, like, if I'm going in a store and somebody's coming out, I'm going to hold the door open. So if you just so happen to be a young lady, how you doing, sweetheart? How's your day? Blah, 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 blah. Keep it moving. But it's completely different when I decide in my head, okay, I'm going to go and talk to this woman with intentions on flirting or, you know. So, the number one thing for me, it has to be confidence. You know, I believe that I can have anything that I want. You know, I believe that in my head. That's number one. Number two, I don't want to say I don't care about other people's opinion, right? But it doesn't, like, I can listen to your opinion and decide whether or not I can keep it or if it's of value to me. So that's important, because a lot of guys, like, we'll go out, right? We'll go out and we can do a study on this. We'll go out, right? Say it's four of us. Me, you, let's say Malik and Eric or, you know, whoever. And there'll be a girl or a group of girls that walk by, and let's say I say to Malik or Eric, or even one of them might say it to me. They'll say, yo, go talk to her. Go say what's up. It's very rare that they'll just automatically get up and just walk over there. You know, they'll probably be like, oh, well, something, you know, there'll be something that'll come up that'll give them a couple minutes to decide, okay, do I really want to do this? You know, am I in the place for this? And it just so happens that for me, when I ask myself, am I really in the place for this right now? You know, do I really feel like doing this? She could possibly tell me no. It's a situation where, you know what, the worst that could happen is she could say no. You know, and to me, for a person that's heard no a lot, it's not, it ain't so bad, you know. All she said is no. And then it's like she's a stranger. And then I will say this, though. It's easier for me to be rejected by a woman that I don't know, or it's easier for me to deal with rejection from a woman that I don't know versus me being rejected by a woman that I already know, you know, if that makes sense. Like a woman that I'm already dating, I don't like for them to reject me. Like, I'm very bad at breakups.
With that in mind, just getting back to the flirting conversation, why, in your opinion, do you feel that most people are uncomfortable with flirting? Why do you think that that's such a taboo thing? There's some people who are lax and cool with it, but they seem to be in the minority. The majority of people are like, hey, you can't flirt. Like, that's cheating to me, or it makes me feel uncomfortable. Why do you, in your opinion, why do you think? Is it purely on where it could lead to, or do you think it's something deeper beyond that?
No, so are you asking me why do people in relationships think it's so wrong to cheat? I mean, to flirt, or just people in general?
People in relationships.
I think it's a combination of things. Again, yes, where it could lead to is one. And then it's also your intention behind flirting. Why do you feel the need to do this? I know personally, most times when I flirt with somebody, there's an objective behind it. Like if I choose to flirt with somebody, and that's why I say the scenario is important too of how you're flirting. If it's in passing, if you're just a natural talker, it's gonna happen. But it can't be a consistent thing with a consistent person. And then people are gonna start to talk, and that ain't gonna be good. Especially if it makes it back to your home. That's very dangerous. So you've been flirting for a year, and now this person leaves the job. And now for some reason, now you don't understand it, and you don't think nothing's changed, but everybody keeps asking, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? Your energy is different or whatever. It's because you miss this person. Like, you guys have developed a routine and a relationship, and now this person is not there no more. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course you're not going to say, damn, I miss this person, because that would be wrong. Then that would be you acknowledging that what you guys were doing was wrong. And then another thing could be like insecurities or whatever. A lot of people in monogamous relationships, they expect it to just be a monogamous relationship.
Now, I personally, and I don't want to get too much into it here because I want to save it for the show, but I personally think that's unreasonable and unrealistic. And I personally think that there's a lot more opportunity for understanding in that world. But I think so many people right now, especially in our age group specifically, if they don't like it, if they disagree with it, they shut down. They don't want to hear the alternative. They don't want to hear the other side of it. And it was almost kind of like the post last night where I looked at it, I saw the young lady's response, and I said, I understand, but I disagree. And like left it at that. Most people can't do that. And I think they view understanding and agreement and that they lump it into the same box for some reason. If I understand you, then I gotta agree. And if I agree, then I gotta understand. There's no separate. And I want to, hopefully in discussing this topic, let the world know that, hey, you can understand why somebody does something. You can understand someone's philosophy. You can understand someone's thought process. And just not agree. Exactly. And just say, hey, that's not my thing. I don't agree. I don't see you agreeing, but I can understand why you don't, And hopefully that, in essence, is kind of where I would want these topics that we do discuss on the show to kind of go to. Well, Dorian, this has been great, man. I really appreciate some of your time. I really appreciate you wanting to come on the show. I can't tell you, it means the world to me that not only just a friend, but a friend I've known for so long, wants to come onto the show and express their thoughts and opinions. It really means a lot to me, so I do appreciate that. And do you have anything going on in your life?
I'm doing my cooking thing right now. I do have some stuff I'm planning on. I don't want to say too much about it. So right now we'll just use my cooking thing. So if you want to check that out, you can follow me on Instagram or check out my Instagram page. It's not a private page, so you can come browse through. At Chef Jukebox. That's Chef CHEF JHUKEBOX. Chef Jukebox. Other than that, the things that I got coming, stay tuned on that page. They'll be posted. I'm hoping that I'll have something more solid that I'll be able to talk about by the end of the month.
All right, Dorian, I really appreciate the time. I can't wait to hear this playback, and hopefully you can give me your feedback on the show's topic once you hear it.
Yeah, man, it was good to be on the show, man. Finally, I'm glad to be able to express what I felt about flirting and cheating. And hopefully somebody agrees or disagrees, and then we can talk about it on the show. I look forward to being here again.
Hey, gang, welcome back. Let me know what you think about Dorian's response, and hit me up. You know how to hit me up. Email me, mention me online, slide in the DMs, whatever you need to do. Call me, text me. Hey, what do you think? Is flirting cheating? If it is, why? If it's not, why? And what points did you agree with Dorian? What points didn't you agree with? with Dorian. Changing topics here and switching gears, so to speak. I had 2 interviews this week, and they were great. And they were just really eye-opening, and it involves entrepreneurship, it involves ownership, and more importantly, it involves passion. So one of the things that I talked about last week is passion and the podcast and why I started it, where it came from, and why I continue to do it. And ultimately, it's because I'm passionate about it. I care about it. It's something that I would do, I feel like, regardless of where I was in my life. I feel like I would do this. And it just seems so natural to me. There's no one in front of me. Some people may feel that it's weird. You're sitting down, you're talking to a wall, you're talking to a mic. But in my mind, I just imagine this theater with all of you in each seat. And you're all listening, and it's such a joy to me to hear from you all when you want to be on the show, when you got feedback for the show, and you have a comment about the show and an opinion. And it's just great. It's just great. And I wanted to link up with other people who felt the same way, especially because I had an experience earlier today that I think encapsulates the message that I want to get through to you all. Earlier today, just to get a little context, I had my interview with Brian, like I talked about at the top of the show. And I wanted to do a video interview with Brian, and it just didn't work out, so we decided to do audio. From there, I said, okay, well, I can't do video, we can do audio. Well, now that it's audio, I can't put it in the show. I can upload it to YouTube, but it'll just be audio. What can I do? Well, hey, I can record some video before it. I can set up a slideshow and I can record some video after it. And I thought of these ways to overcome my challenges. I didn't just give up. You know, I didn't just say, I can't do a video interview. Well, that's that. Sorry, Brian, I can't have you on. I didn't stop at the audio interview. Well, hey, now I have this audio interview. Where do I put it? Where do I place it? And just stopped. I didn't give up. I kind of just kept going. And I encountered several more challenges. After recording the interview, I decided to export it in WAV format, WAV format. And for my audio nerds out there, WAV format is much better than MP3 as far as how it sounds. It's just a better quality product. I don't upload my podcasts as WAV because they're so large. There's a limit to the file size that can be uploaded to my web host. So I do MP3. It is much easier to deal with. Plus, thanks to the mic that you all helped me get, it sounds relatively okay. I like to think, as a guy who's recording this in a room in his apartment, I don't think I'm doing too bad. But I decided to upload the interview because it was just an interview. It wasn't a full-length episode. I decided to upload it in WAV format. It ended up being a large file regardless because the interview was longer. And I thought to myself, okay, I'll just email this to myself and upload it from my phone or my tablet. The internet, the email client that I used did not let me upload a file that large. Okay, what do I do now? Well, I have Google Drive. I uploaded the file to Google Drive. I inserted the file from my Google Drive, and lo and behold, I uploaded it to the YouTube channel. Why didn't I give up? Why did I keep going? Why didn't I just stop and say, I can't do this? It's because I'm passionate about it. You can't duplicate that. So for everyone out there who maybe has a dream or a goal and they want to get started with something, for me, what motivates me is hearing and seeing other people who are passionate about what they do, and it just inspires me to keep going. Hopefully these next 2 interviews will do the same for you. The first person I have on is a friend of mine that I've known for a while now by the name of Jason. And Jason is an audio engineer, a producer, and a musician / artist. And he has his own studio, and I wanted to get with him and talk with him about what he's passionate about and have you all hear the passion in his voice and why he loves what he does so much. So, what is the purpose of both of these interviews? For you to get inspired and get motivated about something that you want to do in your life, whether it be crocheting, whether it be starting a garden, whether it be going to school, whether it be starting your own podcast, whether it's something as ambitious as starting your own business. The hardest part is that first step, and then your dreams can be just like a snowball. It may start off small, but once you get that momentum, it turns into this really big thing that is a force to be reckoned with. So with that said, sit back and enjoy. Here's the first interview. Here's Jason from Drowning Fish Studios.
Hey gang, welcome back. Another episode, another week, another interview. This time around, a really good friend of mine, and I know I say that every time, but I genuinely mean it. This is a man I've known for quite some time. I'm really excited to have him on the show. We have Jason. Jason, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm excited, man. I don't know if you heard it in my voice, but we got a bit of history, and we've known each other for quite some time. And one thing I've always known about you is passion. So one thing I'm really excited to have on the show is your passion, and hopefully I can get everyone else excited too. Before we get started, man, you know, how you doing today? You relaxed? You're kind of loose? You're limber?
I actually am. I managed to go to a friend's studio to hang out and to help out with a project there, and managed to quickly drink a beer on an empty stomach, so I'm feeling quite happy and loose right now.
Hey, that's the way to go. I believe most dietitians actually advocate for that. So I think you're ahead of the
right.
game there. So speaking of studios, and it seems like you're never far away from one, I wanted to take the time to talk about your studio, your baby, Drowning Fish Studio. So tell me a little bit about the name, when it started, and where you're at now.
Ooh, okay. Well, it was not my original plan to be part of a recording studio, to be a music producer. I grew up as a drummer, and very passionate about playing drums since I was 3 years old. And I was actually in a band. We were paying to rehearse at various places around the Philadelphia area. And I was actually married at the time and was shopping for a home. And we thought, you know, it would be great if we could purchase a home that had a dry basement. We could renovate and turn into a rehearsal studio, so we could stop paying for rehearsal time at all these other studios. And so we're in the process of building that. We purchased a home. We're in the process of building that. And of course, you know, my good friend and bass player is saying to me, you know, we should put a control room in here in case we ever want to record our band. And I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And then next thing you know, it's, you know, we should buy some gear to put in this control room so that, you know, we could really do a good job recording our band. And I'm like, okay. And my credit cards came out, and you know, fast forward $35,000 later, I'm going, hey, Tom, we just dropped $35,000 on my credit card to buy gear. I think we need to try to earn some of this back because I think my wife is going to murder me. So, you know, we decided, okay, well, let's, mostly him at the time, because I was not an engineer at that time. I was a drummer who had a passion for music, but the actual production of it, was not that involved in. I did tinker with audio a lot in my childhood, but this is a more in-depth game than just wiring up speakers and making sounds. So, you know, we started taking on some clientele, and I grew a passion for it because it was just so exciting to help others reach their goals and to make this great recording, and seeing the musicians get very excited when their music is brought to life. And I'm an empath by nature, and I feed off of other people's energy. And when people have a positive experience and an exciting experience, it lights me up. And so being able to have a skill or a talent to give that to others is like, it's amazing. It's just amazing. And it can be a very tough job at times, but at the end of the day, when your client, your customer is excited about what's going on, it feeds you a lot of fuel to keep pushing this machine forward. So I ultimately ended up parting with that partner, and just over the years been in several different buildings, and running this as a part-time gig for many years, and then running it as a full-time gig for a period of time. And then some things in my personal life didn't go so well. It kind of fell apart, like many of us go through, and I had to take a step back and go get a job, as they say, and
right.
and prepare my comeback. And at this point, we've been in our current location almost 10 years, and in the past year have acquired an amazing business partner. Jerry Kolankowitz is my hero for what he's been doing and making happen for our studio. We are able to purchase gear that most people just salivate over, and it does help. There is, skill is in the hands of the beholder, but it sure helps when you have some pretty sharp tools to do those tasks. Yeah.
Indeed.
So that's kind of, the shortest version I probably have ever said of my journey. But, yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. We're in this comeback phase, and we're super excited because we've never been better poised or prepared to be able to give to our clients, to our friends, to our musician brothers and sisters. Man, we are excited about that.
Well, you mentioned being in the comeback phase, and an artist that you may have heard of by the name of LL Cool J says, "Don't call it a comeback. You've been here for years." And being here for years, you deal with so many different people. You deal with so many different artists and their visions and their creativity. And at the same time, as an audio engineer, as a producer, and even as a musician yourself, you have your own vision sometimes from a production standpoint, or from an audio engineer or mixing or mastering standpoint. You know what the standard you have is, you know what the industry standard is. However, you have this artist who has this creative vision and they come with their own ideas. How do you marry taking ownership of a project from an audio engineer or a production standpoint, but also not stepping on the toes of the artist and keeping the artist the focal point? How do you marry those two philosophies?
That's a great question. First and foremost, I believe that, and I believe this in all my heart, that the music business is a people business, more so than it is a technical business. Specifically in audio production, it is a people business, and being able to read people is a huge asset to have, because you need to constantly be able to gauge the response of your artists or your clients on a second by second basis, and have the ability to make quick decisions and react quickly to their responses to things that you create with them. I rely very heavily on my clients' feedback, because not every artist has the ability to articulate what they're looking for. I've had artists bring me what we call an anchor or a reference audio to listen to, and even within doing that, their interpretation of what they hear and my interpretation are completely different. So there's so much room. It's such a vast universe within the musical realm of directions that you can take. It's infinite. I mean, it is infinite, and it can go anywhere. And so it's really helpful to be able to gauge your customer, your client's reactions in that second to second basis, so that you can continually adjust the game plan without always discussing it. Because sometimes the discussion, it takes too long. The discussion takes too long. And so this is where experience comes into play, because having been through so many different scenarios and knowing so many different directions I've personally taken, I can guide them through that process by, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, and offer options offer options to that person, because time is of the essence most of the time when you're in the studio. Most of your clientele are paying by the hour, and they want results really quick. And I never want to be the reason why things are taking too long. So it's about having the talent, the skill to be able to read your client and make movement forward into getting closer to what their vision is. It's not always spelled out. They can't always articulate it. And I think experience is what gives you those skills to be able to almost mind read or fortune tell, in a sense, where this is going, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes a ton. And you talked about experience, and I'm sure at one point in time you've come across people who may have had more experience than you in some areas. You've come across some people who you probably been around the block. You probably lapped them around the block in how much experience you have. But at one point in time, you had a beginning like everyone else did. When you have your clients and customers come to the studio, do you ever see a bit of that young Jason, that bit of you in them? And if so, how do you deal with that in turning like, hey, I need to treat them like them. I don't want to treat them like younger Jason?
Well, to answer that question, I hope I answered this correctly, but I find a lot of passion in educating the people I work with. So I am one of those kind of people that reaches out, takes them by the hand, and wants to carefully guide them through, without any, degrading them or making them feel stupid or underqualified in any kind of way. Everyone has a beginning. And I often think to myself, as far as my younger Jason, how awesome it would have been if I had somebody take me by the hand and guide me through things.
Wow.
And how much faster I would have gotten, to where I am right now as a musician, as a producer, as an engineer. It would have gotten me there so much closer, but I didn't have a whole lot of mentorship in the earlier part of my career. So it was kind of seek and find. And it can be frustrating at times because when you're in the seek and find world, you don't always find the right answer. There's a whole lot of BS out there for you to grasp at on YouTube, for example. There are a lot of inexperienced musicians, engineers, songwriters, all the different facets of the music business. There are plenty of wrong answers if you don't have enough experience and discernment to decide what is right and what sounds like gibberish, if that makes any sense. So
it does. Wow.
I do take an awful lot of pride. My goal is that when I'm done working on a project with a certain artist or a band, my goal is that they leave me in better condition than they found me. That they have, that when they move on from my studio with their new recording, that they have a much firmer understanding of their instrument, their talent, their skill, their connection with music. Maybe they have some new vocabulary to better articulate the things that they wish could happen within their music. These are all things I think about as I'm working with people. I want to help develop their mind, because if they're stronger in the sense of being able to articulate to me what they want, I'm stronger to be able to deliver that quicker and more accurately.
Wow, that's great, Jason. You're exactly right. Training is a two-way street. And to learn, to teach is to learn, and to learn is to teach. That's great stuff, and I agree. Earlier in the conversation, you spoke about that artist or, that drummer, that guitarist, that singer, that vocalist may not know how to articulate their vision. And if they can walk away from time spent with you on how to articulate that vision, I agree. I think that's huge. You can't really put a value on that. That in and of itself is probably worth more than what they paid to get. That knowledge.
It may be.
Yeah.
But it does help me do my job, because once they've got the language down, we can then get to work.
Right. Right, exactly. If you can't speak the language, then we can't write the book, so to speak. No,
Or
that's really good feedback.
maybe not the book you were looking to write, at least.
Right. Exactly. Now, Jason, from our brief time together in the past when we would hang out, one thing that we always did was have fun. So I want to have a little bit of fun with you now. And I'm going to say some things. I'm either going to say a place, a thing, give some nouns to you. And I want you to tell me what memories come to mind. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay. 2730 Pickwick Street.
As soon as you say that, the first thing I think of is seeing this building for the first time, thinking the name of my business is Drowning Fish. It's on the corner of Pickwick and Salmon, and there's a doorbell. There's a doorbell on the door in the shape of a fish. And I thought, I'm home. I just found my home. They've been waiting for me. They've been waiting for me in here.
Made especially for you.
Apparently so. At least my first impression. I mean, later found out that there's a fishing club inside the building, and that was their doorbell. But at the time, I was searching for some sort of sign from God that I was in the right building, you know?
Hey, and what are the odds?
There's a whole lot of alignment there, and it just, you know, I couldn't deny it. You know, there's something that hit me like a brick. You know, there's alignment here. I should be here.
Here's another one for you. The Dixie Hummingbirds.
Wow. You've been doing some homework.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, so one of the first clients I had in this building that I'm in now, this gentleman, which for some reason the name escapes me at this moment, was an amazing singer and had sang previously in the Dixie Hummingbirds, and also claimed, I never researched it to find out, but claimed he had the lowest male sustaining note in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Wow.
So it was a great experience. He was an awesome guy. We had so much fun working together, but that was literally within the first, I want to say maybe 2 months of me being open at our current location. So that was one of our beginnings there.
That gentleman's name was Cornell McKnight.
Yes. Yes. He was awesome. If he ever hears this, I'd love to work with him again.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can get this circulating, and that will be a great person to speak with. I've never spoken with anyone in the Guinness Book of World Records, so hey, I guess that's a feather in your cap, Jason. How about this one? Saturday Night Live.
Oh, Saturday Night Live. Well, I love it. I love Saturday Night Live, and I guess the first thing I think about with that is that comedy has been such a huge part of my life growing up. I, like many people, didn't grow up in the most sweetest of households and families, if you want to say that, and comedy was like how we coped with the stress of daily life. And so, you know, Saturday Night Live, I mean, that's where some of the best comedians in world history have been spawned from. So it's near and dear to my heart for sure.
And last one for you, Jason. Let's wrap it up. Let's bring it all home. Bucks County, Pennsylvania. What do you think about when you hear about Bucks County?
Ooh, I think about growing up, and I think about my grandparents' house, which is a dream of mine to one day be able to purchase back. They had a beautiful home my grandfather built with his bare hands in Southampton, and I would love to be able to purchase that back someday. But I grew up in my teenage years in Bensalem, which is in Bucks County, and had so many great memories in that school. it is where my musicianship was met with, where I kind of grew my legs. My adult teeth grew in that kind of sense, where I learned discipline in musicianship. I learned etiquette in musicianship. I learned about raising my standards and teamwork in that situation because of being in the jazz band, the marching band, concert band. It was a beautiful experience for me. It's where my music was born.
Well, I'm glad we could take a trip down memory lane, and you already spoke about so many different things that brought up who you were. And I think it was really appropriate to end on Bucks County, because it's okay to move away. It's okay to grow up. It's okay to distance yourself. But to never forget where you came from, I think is really important, because it quite literally makes us who we are. Jason, this has been a pleasure. I can't wait to have you back on. I would love to have you back on in the future, and I can't wait to just hear some of the work you've put out. I've listened to some of the artists that you've had through your studio on Spotify, and the feelings that I feel. You talked about being an empath earlier. The feelings that I feel, I can feel the passion. I can feel the commitment, and I can somehow even feel the fun. I can feel the emotion that went into the music that you put out there. So you got quite the resume so far, sir, and I hope the best for you. With that said, what can you tell the people who are listening about your studio and where to find you?
So we are at drowningfishstudio.com, which is currently being updated, that website, with all the new gear that we've been purchasing. A new photo shoot was just done. And you can find us on Facebook at Drowning Fish Studio, and on Instagram at Drowning Fish Studio. We are looking for talented people that are passionate about making music and are willing to work hard to achieve a common goal. We are searching for those individuals right now, and we want you. We want to work with you.
Hey, gang, you heard it here. You heard it first. Definitely contact Jason. He's really easy to get in contact with, and hopefully, Jason, you'll be hearing from some ambitious people after this airs. But in the meantime, Jason, keep doing your thing, man. This was a pleasure. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that. It was a fun interview. Very, very fun. And just to keep the ball rolling, not to hold you all up for too much longer, I fell in with another close friend of mine by the name of Reek. And Reek was a blessing. I'd known him for quite some time. I was able to kind of sit in with the journey with him, and I had a good time in interviewing Reek as well, because just like Jason, Reek is heavy in the music entertainment industry, and he has a little bit to share. So without further ado, here's Reek from Me to You.
Hey, gang, I hope you enjoyed that first interview with Jason. This time around, we have another producer/artist on the line, and hopefully we can get a different take from the artist perspective. This time around, I want everybody to welcome Reek. Hey, Reek, how you doing, man?
What's up, gang? What's up, Brother Brooks?
I'm doing great. For those of you who don't know, Reek and I went to high school together. So we met a really, really long time ago. I'm not going to put any years on it. But we have a friendship. Good old days. We have a friendship that's tried and true, and it definitely didn't happen overnight. A lot of hours put into our friendship. So, speaking of a lot of hours put into anything, Reek, you put a lot of hours into being an artist, being a producer, and I know you started pretty young. How long have you been in the game so far?
I don't want to give an exact time, but I will say that I've been pursuing music aspirations since 5th grade.
Wow. So that's a really, really long time. To put it in perspective, that's not something that just happens. That's a switch that turns on when you're really, really young, and you kind of grow from there. What was your
Right.
idea of success in 5th, 6th, 7th grade compared to now? Was there something when you were younger that you said, this is all I just want to do, compared to now with what you deem as success?
Yeah, I think that my POV on success as a kid was just getting my mom a big house on the hill, as cliche as that might come off. I think now my idea of success is, maybe not cliche, but more concise rather. Just stability, peace of mind, and happiness above all.
I think that's a great mindset to have. Peace, stability, again, peace of mind. And I'm sure that can be really hard to attain at times, especially dealing with so many different customer types. In a previous interview, we talked about how difficult it can be for artists to articulate their expressions, their creativity, their thought process. And I'm sure you deal with that all the time as a producer. What are some of the tools or techniques that you personally use to get that artist when they come in and says, hey, I don't have the words, here are just the letters, and how do you help them formulate what they're trying to say to execute their vision?
So that's actually a great question. For me, it's actually a special case because I often struggle with communicating myself sometimes as well. For example, before I learned music theory on even a basic level, I couldn't really communicate with musicians what I wanted when I hired musicians to play on tracks that I produced. But now I can say, hey, give me a major chord, give me a minor chord, give me a major seventh, give me this, give me that. We're in this key. I want this. I can do that now. So oftentimes when I'm dealing with artists, I might get someone, and Tim might laugh at this, that comes in and they just say, hey, can you put an effect on this? And, back in the day, we would just exchange like blank stares for a second as I tried to conjure up some kind of mythical effect to put on them and just blow them away, and so they can be happy with their mix. But now I kind of urge them and egg them on to try to elaborate a little further. So, and there are also common words that I understand now. Sometimes they'll say, can you make me sound like I'm on the phone? And I just know that's just an EQ request. Or can you make it echo? Can you echo? That's either, they want more reverb or, more times than none, they want a delay applied to whatever they're asking for, their vocal or whatever. But if not that, I'll try to get them to, I used to, just, do an impression of what they want. Like I said earlier, humming my melodies and things of that nature to the musicians. Or just give me an example from a song. Did you hear this effect that you want on a song already? Play me the song. And then I can just emulate it flawlessly,
Wow, that's a really good baseline. I think that's a great point that you just made and can potentially help not only a lot of producers, but a lot of artists out there. What song did you hear? And I know you and I, we got history. So, back in the day for me, I used to dabble. And
back in the day,
back in the day.
Back in the days, accurate days. He was a cool dude. He's been back his ways though.
we know I used to dabble a bit, and when I would sit and write, when I wanted to get in a creative mindset, I listened to other music. I heard a sound or audio bite, and I went to myself, hey, I want that. That's what I want. That's what I want. And that's really good feedback to have an artist come and say, hey, I heard this effect on this song. What is that called? I don't know what it's called. And can you emulate that? Can you duplicate that? I think that's a really good starting point. And you talk about communicating as an artist and how important that can be and how difficult and challenging that can be. You also, sir, walk the line of the artist. And at times when you go to other producers, it can be tough or difficult for some people who have a certain profession to turn that switch off in their mind, for doctors who are doctors and they're going to a doctor? Can they turn off
Right.
being a doctor and can they be a patient? You know, when you are a producer and then you flip that switch and go to artist mode and you work with other producers rather, are you able to turn that producer mode off and let the producer that you're working with do their thing, or is that a bit of a challenge for you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And actually, more times than none, if I'm focusing on just rapping, and I don't have like a goal already in mind for the record, I'm sorry, like say if I'm linking up with some homies that produce, and they're like, yo, let's cook up, let's make some music, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm with it. Like, what y'all want to do? You want to produce? You want to make some beats? Or you want to make some records? You want to like songwrite? Or is this like me doing my artist thing? And if it's me doing my artist thing, then, you know, I'm letting them do everything they want to do. Even if they actually, like, if they trust my ear as a producer as well, they might ask me something. I'd be like, I don't know. You know, you the producer. I'm the rapper right now. You know, so whatever hat that I'm wearing at the time, I try to just keep that one on. 'Cause, you know, you can't wear two hats at the same time.
Was that something that was always easy for you, or did you have to learn to grow into that?
I don't think I had to learn to grow into it, because even when I first began to produce, I was an artist, solely an artist first, and I was learning to produce. So most times when I was in the room with producers, I was trying to be a sponge or a fly on the wall and just learn and soak in everything they were doing, like every little thing, like even the smallest, most meticulous details. And I still kind of carry that on today, because I'm just always trying to learn something new or get better or improve on something I already know.
I think that's a good foundation, a good mindset to have. Not too many people can start from a place of humility. They usually have to grow into it. So
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about not only your work ethic, but your character. And speaking of your character, things have grown over the years. Things have shifted and changed over the years. So I'm going to play a small game with you, Reek. It won't take long, and I think you'll enjoy it. I'm going to say some words, and I want you to tell me what emotions, what thoughts come to mind when you hear these words. That sound good?
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do it.
MPC.
Man. Bliss. Happiness. Pure happiness.
What's something about the MPC that you feel like something only a producer or artist will understand that maybe the general public is just
man,
like that beginning artist just doesn't know?
The feel of the pad, especially people like starting off the day, they don't know about analog gear and stuff like that. Everything is done straight from the laptop, you know. They don't know about SCSI drives and, you know, flash cards for, you know, if you had the MPC 1000, that was my weapon of choice. I had the MPC 1000 and I started with an MPC 2000. I wanted the 2000 because that's what I saw Kanye with. He used the 2000 XL. The XL, the main difference was the screen, the display flipped up, and it just looked really cool.
Okay, here's the next word for you. J Dilla.
Cool.
No question. Here's another one. Upsall Street.
The hood. Home.
And the last one for you, Reek. Audio Crack.
Oh, man. Childhood. Adolescence. Young dreams.
Well, Reek, as I sit back, and I like to think I had at least a front or second row seat to your development and your growth as a person. And I'm excited to know you. I'm excited to know that we're still around. We're still in communication with each other. So I can watch that next stage of growth. I think what you and I personally have learned as success is not made for the microwave. It is a long process. Sometimes you got to smoke it. Sometimes you got to grill it. Sometimes you got to throw it in the oven, but it is definitely not meant for the microwave. And I'm excited to see the next chapter is for you and your journey and your business. And I can't wait. I think a lot of us expect success to happen at 25 or 35. for some people, success doesn't happen until 50 or 60. And and if that's the case, take it and run with it. You know, take
Everybody
it and run with it.
timeline.
Everyone has their own timeline, 100%. So before I let you go, Reek, do you have anything in the pipeline or anything that you're working on right now that you want to let the audience know about?
Well, I'm definitely working on new music, working on myself. Had a few tragic losses in my family. It's just actually been like a really hectic 2 years, the last 2 years on top of everything that's crazy going on in the world. I did manage to produce an entire project, for a good friend of mine, Ashikor, up and coming artist from Philadelphia, available on all platforms. The Gold Mine template, you know. As I say, as the saying goes, in Zimbabwe, we around like surround, you know. I got something coming with another good friend of mine, Doughboy Philly. He actually went viral from a freestyle that he did. So some people may be familiar with Doe, but yeah, we have a project coming. I'm producing that one as well. And, you know, I have a project coming of my own that I'll be producing predominantly myself, but I will be enlisting the help of a few of my good friends who I think are just extremely dope, and I just couldn't do it without them at all. I just would never forgive myself. So yeah, this is like a fresh start for me. This is a fresh start for me. So even all of my numbers and all my social medias, everything's fresh. So if you guys decide to hop on the board for the journey now, you're getting front row seats to the next chapter as well. Follow me on Instagram at yo RQUE _ yo Reek. Follow me at _ RQUE _ on Twitter. I would love to be in contact with y'all. So yeah, definitely reach out. Let me know. Let me know what you think of the content and everything, the music that's coming, the music that's already out. I do have some music that's already out, available on all streaming platforms.
Well, I'm excited to get your sound out there, Reek. I fell in love with your sound a long time ago, and I'm really excited for everyone to experience that as well. So that said, I really appreciate, I know to let everybody know, Reek is actually in between sessions right now, and he made some time just for little old me. So I really appreciate that, and I can't wait to get this out live over the air, and hopefully not only you can give me your feedback when you hear it, but people can be introduced to the sound that is Reek as well. I appreciate it, Reek. Thank you so much.
Yes, I appreciate you.
All right, everybody. Now, I know I held you up for a long time. I know this episode is pretty long, but hey, it just happens that way sometimes. Every now and again, you'll get a 40, 50-minute episode, and sometimes you'll get a 2-hour episode. I like to think that, hey, the more content you have, the better, right? So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm very anxious. The anticipation is at an all-time high to hear from you all on the topic regarding Jada and Will, the monogamy and open relationships, and just starting your own dreams and pursuing your own dreams and having passion be the fuel that runs your vehicle, that is life. And I can't wait to hear from all of you. I really, really, really can't. Stop by the YouTube channel, show me some love. Stop by the Instagram page or Twitter page and show me some love. And hey, if you got Periscope, follow me on that as well. And until the next time, everybody, I'll keep talking if you'll listen.